On May 10, 1869, a Salt Lake paper wrote that the people of Utah, the great pioneers of the Rocky Mountains, received with acclamation the glad news of the completion of the mighty work to which, as a people, they had contributed their part. And hand in hand with the great circle of states and territories now rejoicing in union over the event, did thank God for its accomplishments. They were referencing the Golden Spike, which had been driven, completing the first Transcontinental Railroad. That date, May 10th, will forever stand as a tribute to the men of vision who foresaw the potential of an empire stretching from coast to coast in the United States, bound together not only by iron rails, but also by a common interest. From the time of the Civil War when this project started till 3 or 4 decades later when the railroad system was completed, America changed. In 1860, the United States was third in the world of production of wheat. When the railroad was completed, we were first. In 1860, England produced 3 times as much coal as the United States. When the railroad was complete, not only did we lead the world, we were producing 110 million tons of coal more than Great Britain. In the Civil War, England was producing 6 times as much steel as we were. But when the railroad was complete, 42% of all steel was being produced in the United States, much of that going to the railroad. In the Civil War, there were only 30,000 miles of railroad track in America. But when the system was complete, there was 167,000 miles crisscrossing this country. Today, we still have more railroad track than any other country, 39% more than the number 2 country of Russia, and more than the rest of the top 10, which include in order China, India, Canada, Germany, Australia, Argentina, France, and Belgium combined. Even more than nation number 139 on that list, the country which has all of 5.5 miles of railroad track. The railroad made our economic explosion possible. The railroad made us an industrial giant. Before the railroad came, it was difficult to move services or even transport people. But once the spike was driven, that was a kickstart to what we were going to do. Now, 150 years later, we are celebrating the coming of the Central Pacific's Jupiter with the Union Pacific's Engine 119 meeting together in Utah's backyard. The railroads still provide goods, and they also provide passenger service. I still remember as a kid, my parents taking me to the Ogden train depot for a trip somewhere into Idaho, probably Boise. I was in my Sunday best, and as we went up to the observation car, I could look out and see the beauty of this America passing us by. It is an American National Historical Park. Is a place where the American story is without equal. In LaRue, Kentucky, there is the Abraham Lincoln Birthplace National Historical Park. In Seneca, New York, there is the Women's Rights National Historical Park. In Dayton, you can attend the Aviation National Historical Park, where you can walk into the bicycle shop where Orville and Wilbur Wright first started to conquer the skies. To receive at the Golden Spike National Historical Park is going to recognize in Promontory Summit in Utah, the place where the world changed, where not only history was made that day, but the Herculean effort of those who organized this, as well as the immigrant manpower of Irish coming from the east, Chinese from the west, who provided the muscle to accomplish this project. A National Historical Park is accomplished by an act of Congress, but the Spike 150 Commission, chaired by Doug Foxley and Spencer Stokes, has mobilized a literal army of history lovers who will host a series of events befitting this historic moment. It's already started with Horse Parade in Brigham City, Hoedown in Tremont, and a country church service on Sunday. It will also culminate this Friday when we invite all of you to come to Utah to see the celebration of the 150th anniversary of the Golden Spike, which encouraged the pioneering of both the spirit and economy of America. And also, when that Golden Spike was driven, America welcomed a new frontier. Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Carter, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize